I'm Father Luke with Covenant Anglican Church in San Marcos, Texas, and today's question is, how did you find Anglicanism? I didn't really grow up in church. When I became a Christian, I was in the Baptist world, and kind of in that Baptist world, fell in love with the Lord, felt called into ministry. And so I surrendered to the ministry as a high school student, about to be graduating. Eventually became a youth pastor and worship leader at a church in Texas. When I left for seminary, I was exposed to liturgy in a way that I'd never been exposed to before. And so I had incorrectly assumed that those things are old and traditional, but they don't lead to vibrant faith. And so while I was away at seminary, I wanted to study how the church had worshiped throughout the centuries. We were at a chapel service, and it wasn't an Anglican seminary by any means, but it did have a liturgical flavor to its worship, to its chapel services. And I was being drawn into it. I had a friend who was a youth pastor at an Anglican church there in Canada where we were, and he borrowed a prayer book from his church and gave it to me and just encouraged me as a good Baptist who really cared about quiet time with the Lord and spending time in the Bible to read Scripture. Anglican prayer book gives us the daily offices, this morning and evening prayer that is saturated with Scripture and invites us into deep prayer. And so I remember doing that and thinking, wow, well, this is wonderful. What if my whole family was doing this? So I invited my wife into morning and evening prayer, and I was leading worship at a Baptist church up there, and the pastor gave me a lot of freedom to introduce some liturgical elements to our own worship services. And I was like, man, what if we were a part of a Christian community, a church that was doing this really well? My youth pastor growing up in the Baptist world, he was calling me because they were getting ready to go plant an Anglican church. And he said, Luke, we would love for you to join us and be a part of that. And so we had been feeling like the Lord was kind of drawing us towards Anglicanism, and then he confirmed it. That's essentially how that journey began. Graduated, eventually joined them in that church plant, and it was wonderful because most of us were not cradle Episcopalians. We didn't really know what we were doing with Anglicanism. It was so fresh, and it was just a wonderful learning experience, seeing the depth of potential and the joy that the Christian calendar can bring as it gives shape to our lives and rhythms that we desperately need in the world. If you find yourself on a similar kind of journey, I'd love to talk to you about it. You can come visit us, drop a comment, send an email. We'll talk to you.